It's okay. Worst case, we'll re-record it. So let's go through this assignment right over here, right? Okay. Suppose we're interested in comparing the infant mortality rates in two states, Colorado and Louisiana, right? Let's calculate the infant rate per 1,000 and then interpret the crude rate that was calculated. So let me zoom in right over here. So somebody want to go ahead and take a stab at how we would calculate the rate per 1,000 for Colorado and the rate per 1,000 for Louisiana?
So for Colorado, would you just divide the 527 with the number of live births and then multiply by 1,000?
Exactly. Perfect. Right? So 527 divided by 53,808. That number multiplied by 1,000 is going to give you the crude rate for Colorado. And then that's going to then do the same thing, 872 into 73,967. Multiply that by 1,000. That will give you the rate for Louisiana. So far, so good? Okay. So now we're going to come by and we decided to investigate our suspicion that race is a confounder in this relationship between state and infant mortality rate, right? So remember, confounders here. What is something else that might kind of explain this? Therefore, we wanted to explore the underlying distribution of race in the two populations, right? So the first question is, what is this table called? Anybody have an idea? Yes, perfect, the frequency table, right? So for this assignment, what you're going to do is you're essentially going to calculate the missing values, right? So this one should be pretty straightforward. Anybody want to go ahead and take a stab at getting at this number right here? You don't have to actually... Perfect, right? So black, 3,166 plus the white 48,805 plus the other 1,837. That's going to give you the total, right? And then now what we have here are called column percentages. How would we calculate this column percentage? It would be, so you would do 3,166 divided by the total. That's going to give you the percentage of black individuals in this, right? So this is the total population of Colorado. What is 3,160? What's that percentage? It's going to be this divided by this. And then to calculate this one, it's going to be this divided by that. And then other will be other divided by total will give you that percentage. These three numbers should sum up to 100. So far, so good? And then to then go ahead and calculate live births, I'm giving you the percentage and I'm giving you the total, so this is just kind of the reverse, right? So it's going to be real simple. What's 40.1% of 73,967? That number will go here. What's 57.8% of this number, and what's 2% of that number, right? So that's going to now go ahead and kind of, you're going to fill out this frequency table right over here. So my thought process was, hey, again, this is, this is algebra, right? Like, it's basic math. So, but when you go ahead and run it in SAS, it just spits out numbers for you and spits out tables for you. And I think that it's really important that you know what is it that these tables are actually saying, right? What are these outputs that when SAS goes ahead and tells you something, what do they actually mean? Okay? So let's go back now, right? Now let's look at the infant mortality rates for the entire United States, right? Remember, this was slide 14, when now we're going ahead and comparing to the entire population. So here, calculate the missing values, and then what observations can you make about infant mortality rate for the entire United States? So again, total, you're going to sum this column down to get these numbers for live births, total number of live births. total number of infant deaths. And then you're going to go ahead and calculate the rate, right, per 1,000, which is, remember, the denominator divided by the numerator, or infant deaths, right? The numerator is what is the actual event that we're interested in, infant deaths over live births. That's going to give you a number, multiply that by 1,000, and that's going to then go ahead and give you the rate. You're going to then calculate the rate for all three race categories, and then the total. Moving on, right, to make a more accurate comparison between the two states by making a race-specific infant mortality rate rather than crude rates, right? So complete the table below. So you'll notice here, so this one's a little tricky, right? What's the total number of live births that I'm asking for? What's the rate? Live birth, and what's the rate? Well, you're going to have to go back a few slides, right? You're going to go back one slide, actually. 2 slides, where they go ahead and give you these values, and you're going to input the values into the table, and then you're going to calculate the rate, right? So it's very important. So I did this intentionally, not because I don't think that you can look up numbers and move them over, but it's really important that when you go through this assignment and you go through the slides, to look through and understand what are these numbers telling me right over here. Here is a frequency table that we're going to generate. We're going to fill out. What is it actually telling us? And be mindful of that information. So you're going to find out what the live births are for Colorado and Louisiana. And know that, again, this information is going to be found in the previous 2 slides, right? And then you're going to take the numerator, divide it by the denominator, multiply it by 1,000. And that's going to give you the rate per 1,000, right? And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to take these numbers and you're going to tell a story about it, right? Where is the infant mortality rate the highest? Are there any racial differences? Are there any differences between the states, right? Look at these numbers and then essentially tell a story from it. And then last but not least, and again, very much paying attention, using live births in the entire United States, we calculate the number of infant deaths that would occur in each of the 2 states if both had the same racial composition while retaining our own race individual specific mortality rates, right? So again, we have live births here from the United States. Here is the rate. This is what is the expected number given that if we followed the racial composition in the United States, right? Does anybody remember what the formula was here? How would we go ahead and calculate expected deaths? It's going to be the very last slide of the lecture too, right? So the lecture slides and the assignment slides are going to go hand in hand. Anybody want to take a stab at it? Really? Oops. Okay, that's my bad. I will fix that right after this. I'll post this assignment once we're done here. Does anybody want to take a stab at expected deaths?
Wouldn't it just be the number of live births times the rate that's next to it?
And then one more step.
Divided by 1,000.
Perfect, right? And then for Louisiana?
Okay.
Exactly, right? So you do 17.7 multiplied by 641,567, right? And then divide that by 1,000. And when you do this, now you can go ahead and you have apples to apples comparisons. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So if that's good, then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to upload this assignment. I'll fix that. It'll be posted up into Blackboard. And I'm going to be here if you have any questions or if you need any technical support with SAS or anything else. So let me